Hey Quizzers, I know we can't all be together right now, so this is our next best option. I'm going to walk you through today's lesson just like I would if we were all meeting together in a classroom. So I hope you guys have your quiz books. Oh, I love brand new quiz books. It's just so full of all the things that we're going to discover this year together. So if we think back, we ended last year in Genesis, and Joseph and his family had just settled in Egypt. Remember, God did some amazing things in the life of Joseph so that he could protect his people, Joseph's family, from the famine that was happening all throughout the land at that time. Joseph's brothers thought they did some horrible things to him when they threw him in that well and sold him into slavery. But God had a plan for Joseph's life, just like he has a plan for your life. So Exodus picks up where after Joseph's family, they've survived through this famine, and they've prospered, and they've expanded. Instead of just Joseph's brothers and their wives and their children, well, now there's grandchildren and great-grandchildren and great-great-great-grandchildren. And these Israelites, as they've been known because they were the sons of Israel, now are getting a different name, the Hebrew people. And they're growing and they're growing, and right now they're living in the land of Egypt. And this has got some people a little bit nervous. It's got some people who are really excited, some who are really angry. In fact, as we jump into Exodus, you're going to see that there's a lot of emotions going on. And maybe as you're reading this story along with me, you get emotional too. And that's okay. We just have to remember that God has a plan for our lives, just like he had a plan for Joseph, just like he has a plan for the Israelites. And as we follow the life of Moses, I hope that you get to imagine what it would be like if you were in Moses' shoes. He is a very brave man who did a lot of things, and I don't know if I would have been up to all of the tests that Moses withstood. So jump in with me, grab your quiz books, and open up to X marks the spot. If you have your portion, your little black book, which I don't have mine with me, open that up too. Sometimes it goes word for word from what the scripture says into our books. And sometimes we change the phrases just a little bit, but the meaning is still the same. That's okay. I'm going to give you all the answers that go in your quiz book. And after I read it to you, we'll stop and take breaks in between, and I'll discuss what some of these things mean. But when it's all over with, I challenge you to go find an adult or a kid or even a pet or a stuffed animal in your house and reread that story out loud to someone else. You're going to get more out of it when you're reading it back and not just listening. But listening is a great first step. Let's jump in. The first thing I see is Dr. Diglot's diary entry. I'm going to read it with you. Dear Diary, Canteen and I have arrived at Dig Site 1, here in ancient Goshen. That sounds familiar. I've discovered there is a connection between Genesis 15, verses 12 through 14, and Exodus chapter 1, verses 1 through 22. It's like one continued story from Genesis through Exodus. Genesis taught me that God is the hero of the Bible. He works through people, but in the end, he is the one who saves the day. Will God once again be the hero and save the Israelites? How? What is the meaning of follow the leader? I'm looking forward to finding answers to these questions, and I hope you are too. Signed, Dr. Diglot. Wow, I'm so excited to see what's happening next. Jump on over to X marks the spot, and let's read our story together. Whatever became of Jacob and his family? The sons of Israel who went to Egypt with Jacob were Reuben, Simeon, Levi, Judah, Issachar, Zebulun, Benjamin, Dan, Naphtali, Gad, and Asher. Each of Jacob's sons took his family to Egypt with him. The descendants of Jacob numbered 70 in all. Joseph was already in Egypt. Joseph and all his brothers and all that generation died in Egypt. The Israelites were exceedingly fruitful. They multiplied greatly. They became so numerous that the land was filled with them. Wow! I know that was probably a lot to fill in. It's okay if you have to pause the video or even rewind it to get some of those filled in. Now that's what happened at the end of our story from Genesis. All of that family, they grew, but they're gone now, and it's time for some new characters in our story. The next section starts with oppressed. That doesn't sound very good. Number 7 in your book says, a new king to whom Joseph meant nothing came to power in Egypt. Oh, remember the king that was in charge, the Pharaoh, back in Genesis? He really liked Joseph, and he knew how important Joseph was and how smart Joseph was. But this Pharaoh, he doesn't know this. The new king said that the Israelites had become far too numerous. There were too many of them. Oh, because the Israelites, they lived differently than the Egyptians. They were set apart. They were God's people. And the Israelites were very different, and the Egyptians could tell. The new king also said, come, we must deal shrewdly with them, or they will become even more numerous. This word shrewdly has a lot of different meanings, but here it means we need to trick these people. The new king of Egypt wants to trick God's people? Oh, they wanted to do something and they thought they were using wisdom. Wisdom is something that God wants his people to possess. However, Pharaoh's wisdom was not God's wisdom. And I'll tell you, I don't want to go up against God's wisdom with my own. God's wisdom isn't selfish. Pharaoh wanted everything for himself, and he cared more about protecting his own stuff than he cared about dealing with people fairly or treating people with respect. I don't think that's going to go well for Pharaoh, but that's my guess. Let's see what happens next. Number 10. The new king thought the Israelites would join with Egypt's enemies and fight against them and then leave the country. Oh, I wish you'd gotten to know the Israelites. That's not what God wanted. Goshen was between Egypt and its neighboring countries. The Israelites could have easily have been a military threat to the Egyptians, but that's not why they were there. Number 11. Slave masters were put over the Israelites to oppress them with forced labor. The Israelites built Pithom and Ramses as store cities for Pharaoh. Oh no, God's people are now set apart, but not in a good way. Now they're set apart and they're forced to work. This isn't good. Number 12. The more the Israelites were oppressed, the more they multiplied and spread. God's always got that plan. And the Egyptians began to dread them. Number 13. The Egyptians worked the Israelites ruthlessly and made their lives bitter with harsh labor. The midwives battle Pharaoh. Do you know what a midwife is? There's still some around today. It's not just a Bible term. A midwife is a woman who helps other women have healthy babies. She's there during the labor and delivery of a baby, and she helps keep the mom and the baby safe. Number 14. Next, the king told the Hebrew midwives, Sephora and Puah, that if a woman gives birth to a boy, they were to kill him. Oh no. If it was a girl, they should let her live. I mean, that's better, but still, all those poor baby boys? And wait, this word Hebrews showed up the first time. Now, we know Hebrews as a term that we call God's chosen people, the Israelites. Eventually, we stop calling them Israelites, and in Exodus, we start calling them Hebrews. There's even a book in the Bible later on called Hebrews. But the Egyptians used that word to bully the Israelites, to bully God's chosen people. But they're not going to let that word hold them back. Number 15. The midwives feared God and did not do what the king of Egypt had told them to do. So they let the boys live. Awesome! These midwives, they were so brave. Their decision to spare these Israelite boys was an act of faith because the king of Egypt could kill them at any time. But it showed that they respected human life and they had God's wisdom on their side. Number 16. The king asked the midwives, "Why have you done this? Why have you let the boys live?" Number 17. The midwives told Pharaoh that Hebrew women gave birth before the midwives arrived. Number 18. God was kind to the midwives, and the people increased and became even more numerous. So the midwives, they might have told a little fib. They said, "Oh, that lady had her baby before I even got there." Couldn't take care of the baby boy at that point. But because of these midwives and women who feared and respected God, so many more baby boys got to live. Number 19. Because the midwives feared God, he gave them families of their own. Usually midwives in the Bible just helped other women have babies. They dedicated their whole lives to helping other women have healthy babies and raise healthy babies. But God saw that they were brave and righteous women, and he made sure they had families of their own. Isn't that amazing? God does bless people who listen and are faithful. Number 20. Pharaoh ordered all of his people, "Every Hebrew boy that is born you must throw into the Nile River, but let every girl live." This was the Pharaoh's third try to help reduce the number of Israelites or Hebrew people. He was trying so hard through forced labor. He wanted to make them miserable. He was telling the midwives to kill the baby boys, and now he said, "If you find one, you kill that baby boy, and we have to stop these Israelites, these Hebrews, from getting any bigger in number." But God's not going to let that happen to his people. Now, like I said, go back and make sure you filled in every blank. If you have to rewind the video, that's okay. Maybe you have to look in your black portion and look up some of these words. But I want you to take this X marks the spot story, and I want you to find someone in your family that you can read it to. Maybe there's a grandparent or your mom or your dad or a sister or brother. Maybe read it to your dog or your cat or your pet fish. If you don't have a pet and you can't read it to a family member, grab a stuffed animal. And I know right now we can't see all of our family members in person, but we know how to use Zoom and FaceTime and Skype and all sorts of, and just the phone. Call somebody and ask if you can read your story to them. You can bless their lives and teach them about Exodus and about these brave people in our story, and it's going to help you remember as we continue to practice. We're not quite done yet. There's a few more activities. Maybe you do them all today. Or maybe you save some for tomorrow or the next day. You pick what works best for you and your family. The next thing I want you to do is complete that activity page. There's a secret word, a hidden word. See if you can find it. If you need help, have mom or dad message me, and I'll help guide you the rest of the way. And if you look at the bottom of that page, there are some really cool vocabulary words and people and faith words. Oh, and don't forget to practice your memory verse. I like this memory verse. It's a good reminder for when things are hard. It's from Exodus 3:7, and we'll read part of that story later. The Lord said, "I have indeed seen the misery of my people in Egypt. I have heard them crying out because of their slave drivers, and I am concerned about their suffering." The truth that this shows us is that God showed kindness to his people, even in times of trouble. And that's what the story of Exodus is going to teach us. Okay, work on your activity sheet. Look at those faith words. Maybe even give mom or dad or grandma, grandpa, your brother, your dog a quiz and see if they can answer the questions. I'm also going to set up some different activities this week so that you can continue practicing all the stuff that you've learned in Dig Site 1. Also, if you open your book up to the very back, on the inside cover, there's a map. You can follow along with the story and draw lines to places on the map. Number 1, draw that line all the way to Goshen, because that's where God's people were living. All right, The last thing I'm going to do is read through the questions with you. Now, there's red level and blue level questions. You don't need to hear both unless you really want to. I'm going to do red level first. So if you're blue level, go ahead and fast forward a little bit. If you're red level, keep on listening and read with me. And if you have to pause the video so you can answer the questions first on your own, that's okay. If you're unsure, just follow along with me. Here we go. Question 1. In Exodus chapter 1, how many descendants did Jacob have? 1, 7 people. 2, 700 people. 3, 70 people. I don't remember reading a long list of people, but I think it's in the portion. What do you think the answer is? I hope you said number 3, 70 people. It's okay if you got it wrong. Just circle it in your book so you can study the correct answer later. Number 2. Who was already in Egypt when Jacob's family arrived? 1, Abraham. 2, Joseph. 3, both answers are correct. I remember this one from the story. What do you think the answer is? I hope you said number 2, Joseph. Great job. Number 3. Who came to power and to whom Joseph meant nothing? 1, the new king of Egypt. 2, Jacob. 3, both answers are correct. I know it's not Jacob. Jacob was Joseph's dad, and he loved him very much. I'm sure he meant a lot to him. Oh, and that means it's probably not number 3, because it can't be both if it's not Jacob. The answer was number 1, the new king of Egypt. You are so smart. Number 4. How many Israelites were living in Egypt when the new king came into power? 1, many. They filled the land. 2, about 100. 3, none. They had all died. Oh, I think you're right. The answer is number 1, many. They filled the land. You're doing such a great job. Number 5. What did Pharaoh think the Israelites might do? 1, they might join Egypt's enemies and fight Egypt. 2, they might leave Egypt. 3, both answers are correct. Yeah, you're right. It's number 3. Both answers are correct. You're doing a great job. Keep it up. Number 6. What did the king do to keep the Israelites from leaving or joining his enemies? 1, he built walls around Goshen. 2, he put slave masters over them. 3, he made the men soldiers. That's right. It was in our story. The correct answer is number 2. You are so smart. Number 7. Oops. What happened the more the Israelites were oppressed? 1, they fought the Egyptians. Number 2, they multiplied and spread. Number 3, they all died. Well, I think our story would be over if it was number 3. And I don't remember God's people starting fights. Yep, it's number 2. They multiplied and spread. We're almost done, red level. You're doing a great job. Number 8. What were the Israelites' lives like? What were the Israelites' lives like? Say that 3 times fast. What were the Israelites' lives like after they became slaves? 1, bitter with harsh labor. 2, joyful with no work. 3, peaceful with just a little work. 2 and 3 wouldn't make a very good story about God helping us in our times of trouble. Yep, it was number 1, bitter with harsh labor. I know it seems scary now, but I promise God has a plan. Number 9. What command did the king give the Hebrew midwives? 1, kill all Hebrew babies. 2, throw the Hebrew baby girls into the Nile. 3, Kill the baby boys, but let the girls live. Some of these sound very familiar to our story. Oh, but you were paying attention, so you know the answer is number 3. Kill the baby boys, or the boy babies, but let the girls live. I'm so glad you paid attention during our story. Okay, red level, last question. What order did Pharaoh give all his people? 1. Throw the Hebrew baby boys into the Nile. 2. Let the baby girls live. 3. Both answers are correct. That's a tricky one. What did he tell all of his people? I know that you know this one. Number 3. He said that the baby boys had to go into the Nile, but the baby girls could live. I'm so glad you paid attention during our story. Red level quizzers, you did a great job. Okay, now it's time for blue. We've got 8 questions to go through. Pay attention. Question 1 for our blue level quizzers. Who went from Canaan to Egypt? 1. Jacob. 2. The sons of Israel. 3. The families of each son. 4. All of the above. Well, I remember Jacob went. The sons of Israel. Israel is Jacob. He had 2 names. And all of his sons' families? Yeah, they went too. The answer is 4. All of the above. I bet you got that right. Question 2. Question. What changed in Egypt after Joseph and all of his generation died? 1. A new king came into power. 2. The Israelites were exceedingly fruitful. They multiplied greatly. 3. The new king became afraid of the Israelites. Or 4. All of the above. I remember reading this in the story. You're right. The answer is number 4. All of the above. Great job. I'm so glad you paid attention to those details. Question 3. Here we go. How did Pharaoh deal with the Israelites? 1. He appointed the Israelite men to be his officials. 2. He put slave masters over them. 3. He sent all the men to battle and they died. 4. He ignored them. Well, ignoring them is not going to make for a very good story. And if they all died, our story would end pretty fast. Well, he didn't make them officials. That would be too kind of Pharaoh. It was number 2. Great job. Question 4. Question. How did the slave drivers treat the Hebrews? 1. They gave them little work, but no rest. 2. They made their lives bitter with harsh labor. 3. They made them work hard, but then allowed them several days of rest. 4. All of the above. I don't think it's going to be all of the above. These all sound very different. I remember that word bitter from our story. If you picked number 2, you're right. Great job. Question 5. Question. What order did Try again. What order did Pharaoh give to the Hebrew midwives? 1. Kill the baby boys, but let the baby girls live. 2. Send the baby boys to Canaan and keep the baby girls in Egypt. 3. Kill the baby girls and let the baby boys live. 4. Kill the Hebrew babies, both boys and girls. Oh, this is tricky. We have to keep track of which one happened to which. Did you pick number 1? You're right. Great job. I know you were listening really well when we listened to our story together. Number 6. What did Sapphira and Puah do about the Pharaoh's order to kill the Hebrew baby boys? Or boy babies. 1. They feared God. 2. They did not do what Pharaoh said. 3. They let the Hebrew boy babies live. 4. All of the above. Do you remember about our brave midwives? Yeah. Did you pick number 4? Great. You're right. All of the above. They defied Pharaoh, but they followed God and they were faithful. and that's why God rewarded them. 2 more questions. Here we go. Question 7. What did the Lord do for Sapphira and Puah? 1. He said, "Thank you for saving the baby boys." 2. He helped them escape Egypt. 3. He was kind to them and gave them families of their own. 4. The Bible doesn't say. I remember from the story. Do you? That's right. It was number 3. He gave them families and he was kind to them. This was their reward for being faithful. Okay, last question. What did Pharaoh say to all the people of Egypt? 1. Rejoice. All the Hebrew baby boys are dead. 2. Throw every Hebrew baby boy into the Nile, but let the girls live. 3. Report to me if you know of any Hebrew baby boys still alive. 4. The Bible doesn't say. What was Pharaoh's goal the whole time? He wanted to oppress the Hebrews and make them not so numerous, and he did that with number 2. Throw every Hebrew baby boy into the Nile, but let the girls live. You did a great job following along. Keep reading and keep studying this week. Have a great week and look for more things, more opportunities to study this week. Bye.